My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. And remember, this podcast is all about becoming remarkable and sharing the stories, the journey, the differences that people from around the world are doing in their life and in the world, the difference they're making. So this podcast is bringing you the adventures, the stories, the struggles of people from all over the world. So today, I have with me Barış Tanyeri. So please, Barış, tell the world, who are you, what's your story, what's your journey, and what difference you want to make in the world.
Okay, thank you, Adrian, for inviting me to the show. First of all, I'm a software engineer. I did my master's in the Nottingham University. First, I was educated I was born in Turkey. I'm a Turkish citizen. I've done my primary school and I did my high school in Turkey, but then I decided to go to university in the UK because I went there for a summer and I had lessons like it was a summer school basically, but then I really liked the system. I really liked how UK, and its education system. It was all very nice compared to what was in Turkey. So I've decided to go to University of Nottingham. Basically, I had some choices, but I've decided to go to Nottingham University. And in high school, by the way, I did electronics and maintenance repair. So that was a technical high school, and I was already interested in electronics back then. What I wanted to do in the university was get into the software development, get into the computing industry, because what I've seen was the electronic industry was going down because everyone was doing their job with software instead of hardware. So, yeah, I've changed my course to software, and I've started my own developments. Learned C in the university and started off with that, and I already known the microcontroller programming. So I've moved on with that, and I looked at tutorials on the internet, YouTube, and I've improved myself basically. And as you know, I did cellular automata, encryption as my thesis. So that was I released that only on Steam. I don't like publications that much. I just like releasing out there, open source, see what people say and all. So that's what I did in university, and now I've graduated. I'm looking into cryptocurrencies, investing in them, also mining them, looking at the ICOs, the new technologies behind the blockchain. Also, sorry, I keep interrupting what I'm saying, but I've also done trading in the university as well. So that's what introduced me into crypto trading. So I've done various things. I've done hardware, I've done software, I've done software development for blockchain applications. Trading, crypto trading, those are my main skills basically, and I'm also educated some terms in some terms of business, such as marketing. But that's pretty much it. That's me, the software developer and the trader. My main areas.
Oh, some cool stuff. Nottingham's University. Yeah, I applied to go there a few years ago to study computer science. But thankfully, I remember, a few years ago, 2011. So that was back then. Didn't do it in the end for one reason or another. Now you mentioned cellular automata. I saw a blog post of that today earlier on Steam. Could you elaborate on what cellular automata is?
It is simply a simulation of life, creation of life, and destruction of life. But This was created by a biologist to simulate what cells would actually look like and what they would do. And so he created some set of rules that would simulate this life. After that, it was changed by various people. Some people saw its properties, and they used it in computer science, and they also used for radio communications to encrypt the communications, military communications. So it is basically life, the simulation of life. And what I have done is that I've used this simulation of life, and I've created something that represents life, and it acts as a life, and we just press play, and life goes on, and we just watch it happen. Such like if you compare to how the universe is created, it is trying to simulate something like that, basically.
So we're talking about a computer simulation that simulates evolution, as drastic as that, or is that what you're talking about?
Yes, but when we talk about cells, it can be anything, but mostly it is represented as ones and zeros. One in terms of alive, and zero in terms of dead. And I've improved that in one of my programs, and I've given different states such as not existent, dead, elderly, and alive. So the 4 states. It depends on the application, and what I've moved on is the people who actually research cellular automata, and they've generated some rules, and those rules, they are limited depending on the application. And I've used those rules to obtain something chaotic. Chaotic meaning is that we don't know what will be in the future, and we cannot know what was ahead of time. So that's what it means, chaotic. And I've used that to use it for encryption to generate random numbers. So that random numbers is then actually this initial cellular automata world, the initial cells which we start with is given by the user, and they will input a password, and they will say, I want to run, let's say, 1,500 generations. And the output of that generation will be their key to encrypt their data. So that was my idea to create the encryption.
Okay, so what can all this be used for?
It could be used for data encryption. So if you have text files, which probably you do have, you can encrypt them. So no one would be allowed to read those files except you, because you would be the only person to know the evolution number and the password that you've initially put in.
All right.
And if you forget those, it's quite hard to break.
Okay, interesting. So lately in the UK, so I'm not sure if you remember this or saw it, but in the general election, 2017, back in June, there was some talk, certainly, and in 2015 as well, in the UK still, that there was some talk about whether or not the government, the UK government, should, and talk with America as well, the presidential, have Apple and WhatsApp, the encryption should be, give the government a backdoor access into the messages, into the data, into the communications. So you're essentially saying that this is totally decryptable, it's totally secure.
It's a good question. I've done some tests on it, but I cannot say 100% that it is secure, because there will be always some smart guy that will find that, or maybe could be able to find something that is I've forgotten, and he will be able to crack it in some way. But in terms of brute force, I don't think it is breakable.
Ah, I see. Well, let's hope that you're the smart guy and not someone else. But what kind of error rate are you getting? In everything, all the aspects.
In terms of the encryption, are you asking?
I'm not too techy, but it sounds like we're talking about the future of encryption here, Baris. Sounds very curious.
As I said, I did some tests on it. I did the monobit tests, which are the standard requirements for National Institutes of Standards and Technology, NIST Institute. So I've done the main tests that were required by that institute, and they were all passed. But there are more sophisticated tests, which could be. I mean, this is still a beta test for me because I've recently released it, and I'm still improving the program itself. There are loads of questions that should be answered and can be answered, but for me to answer them on my own, it's going to need some time.
Okay, that's all right.
Obviously,
that's all right. But because I'm pretty sure at the end of this podcast that there's always some website to go to learn more. But
obviously.
But from a layman's point of view, everyday user, what's so special about it? Why should we care? Because Apple encryption or WhatsApp and whoever else does it. Why should we care? Why should the everyday person care about the encryption, or even the techies? Why should they care about the cellular automata?
The reason is that, as you previously said, the UK government wants to access the keys of users, the regular day users of WhatsApp, Facebook, and etc. And actually, the government is trying to force that on companies. In the UK, in Germany, there are some restricted countries which will send you, the company, a mail, some sort of mail saying that you should give up your keys regarding your users, because the government wants to access some information. It could be related to terrorism, it could be related to illegal drug activity, it could be related to anything, criminal. And the government wants to try to prevent that, but some people also want their anonymity. And my program gives the user their anonymity because it is only done on your computer, and it is encrypted, and it completely scrambles the data. It only works for text files at the moment. But unless you know the exact parameters, unless you know the exact combinations to my algorithm, then you won't be able to retrieve your data back. And it's not, it is not public key encryption, so it's symmetric key encryption, meaning that the encryption and the decryption keys are the same. So you should be the only person to know those keys. For example, in my program, it is the evolution number and the password you enter. What I would recommend is you keep that password safe in your mind, but not writing it anywhere, not writing it anything digital. So you have that password in your mind. The most powerful thing, and the most private thing is your mind. So you keep that password in your mind, and if that is the only way to decrypt it, then you've solved the anonymity problem.
Okay, it's interesting. And also I'm very curious. Going back, you mentioned that all this open source, and you like the open source. You don't like the publications. I've heard that like the patent laws and copyrights and all the rest are a bit bad. They're a bit of a monopoly. I don't quite fully understand why, because it's like if you invent something, if you create something, aren't you as the creator or the author, don't you have a right to hold on to it and to have ownership of it? But you chose to do this open source. Could you explain what your views are on open source and why you chose to put the cellular automata, as open source in general?
So the reason why I chose open source is that everyone can access it and everyone can read how the program works and they can contribute to the program. So my idea is, my view to the open source is that I want to contribute to a community which they contributed me, because I've learned most of my skills from the open source community. So I felt like I had to give something back. That's one of the reasons that I love the open source community. And when you talk about monopoly, open source doesn't actually mean that it cannot be monopolized. When you create software, for example, in the UK, if you create a software, if you put your name on it, you've already obtained your copyright. You've already obtained your software copyright to it. That is known by the law, and you can claim copyright. You can copyright claim if someone else used your program. You just have to write it. In some countries, you just have to write the software and put your name on it, and you've already got the copyright. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like, if you put it on open source, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is free. You can also earn some money from it. Obviously, I mean, there are loads of applications which could be monopolized, because not everything is running on your computer. If, like, for example, you want to open a username on a site, you have to go through their database and create your registration there. And if you want to log into their website, you have to go to their database. And obviously, those are done in the back end. But you have to go there and check your registration if it's there. And if it's there, then you can log into the website. So it can be, those things could be done and integrated with the open source software. And the open source software could also be monopolized, but it doesn't need to be a closed source. It can be open source. Everyone can benefit from it. Everyone can create similar programs, or, put something to those programs to improve them and recontribute it to the community. And if you're writing software to the open source community, and if you're releasing it with a special license, then some licenses doesn't allow you to actually earn money from it. But obviously, you need to take consideration of that before releasing your software.
Okay, so what is next for you, and what are you working on next with Cellular Automata?
I'm currently doing testing on my encryption algorithms, and I've done a visual representation of cellular automata. So that's the two-dimensional representation of cellular automata, and I've added my own rules to it to make it look better in some ways, or to represent some other states in the cellular automata world. So I'm basically, I will have some ideas that come into my mind, and I would usually implement them. And the cellular automata is something that we should look into, because it is something chaotic. We cannot predict what's coming next. So it could be used in various things. So I'm just waiting for another idea to show up. But currently, I'm improving my software that I've already implemented. The encryption, the visualization, and all kind of stuff.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for you to come up with ideas, you mentioned Bitcoin mining. Now, this is something that I tried to do a few years ago. I certainly looked into it back in 2014. I realized that it was a lot longer, a lot more of a harder process than I anticipated. It requires a lot more GPU and CPU and all the rest than I thought and that I had at my disposal. But what can you tell me about it? Because it's hashing new Bitcoin, expanding the ledger, and bringing expanding the computing power. So, what are your thoughts on that, and how did you get involved into it?
When you talk about Bitcoin, I only do invest in Bitcoin. I don't mine Bitcoin because it is currently not profitable to mine Bitcoin unless you're getting your power really cheap and you have your huge database or huge mining facility that runs of billions or thousands of terahashes. So it is Bitcoin mining is not profitable, but I'm mining Ethereum, which I think is the Bitcoin version 2.0. What I think about Ethereum is that Ethereum is the next generation cryptocurrency, and it has applications that we won't be able to imagine, I think, because blockchain technology brings lots of power in terms of decentralized networks and anonymity. So this could be used for, like, for example, for voting in the country. So everyone would have a validated vote, so no one would be able to cheat on the government votes. For example, it could be used to pay your electricity bills. It could be used for anything, just with one click, and your daily job would be done with Ethereum. That's my view for Ethereum. And in terms of mining process, yes, it was a very long journey for me, and it was also a very tough journey because while I was planning to buy a mining rig, I anticipated the costs to be the same as it was before. But once everyone started to buy GPUs, they cranked up the GPU prices. When it was $300, it went up to $400. When it was, then it is still increasing. I mean, when there is demand, they will increase their prices. So at that time, while I was planning these, I was back in the UK, and I was planning to come back to Turkey because I was going to graduate. So after I graduated, I came back to Turkey, wanted to buy the mining rig that I planned to, but it cost $1,000 or $2,000 extra what I anticipated. So after I bought the system, plus I couldn't buy the GPUs that I wanted because AMD GPUs were gone. So I had to buy NVIDIA GPUs because I wanted to get into business, very fast because I wanted to mine it as quickly as possible. Then I got my rig. I came back home. I set up the rig. It took me around 4 or 5 hours to set it up. After a day or two, I started having problems. And it took me around 2 or 3 weeks to actually, maybe not 3 weeks, but 2 weeks to actually solve everything and get it to run it stably. So I was always wondering, what if it catches fire? What if that happens? What if happens? What if that happens? Blah, blah, blah. And at the end, it's now stable and working, but the process of setting up a mining rig, it's not that simple as it seems, maybe, because you have to monitor it, you have to keep watching it, you have to keep watching the temperatures, you have to keep watching its environment, if it's humid or not, just not to damage your equipment, your fan percentages, everything is important. You have to keep monitor your rig. You just can't leave it there and forget it.
Yeah, it's a complicated process. There's a lot more to it. You mentioned that Ethereum is going to replace Bitcoin. I believe that cryptocurrencies as a whole are the equivalent of internet where cryptocurrencies are today are the equivalent of the internet back in 1998. And I suspect that over the next 4 to 6 years, it'll be a lot more mainstream. It'll be a lot more practical, a lot more down to earth, a lot more approachable. Because I think a lot of the technology and the jargon and the steps to buy it and hold it, the wallets and all the different exchanges, I feel there needs to be a bit more centralization and a bit more maybe systemization so as people to know which cryptocurrency to use or which one is much more easy to adapt to. Because I think that the thing that I think the whole industry at the moment is also similar to where social medias were in the early 2000s, where the main one to come to the scene is MySpace. And that's the equivalent of Bitcoin, where it's setting the trend, it's the pioneer, it proves that it can work, it grows, it does its thing, great. But then the equivalent of Facebook will come along, and that'll catch the inflection point where the most people in the world are aware of this thing, and they realise that it has potential, that it can be quite useful, and this is generally better than MySpace. And I think people will, when that point comes, that point of mass adoption, for one way or another, it will go much more viral and therefore much more mainstream. But my main thing with Ethereum is that it's more to do with like app development and social contracts, and much more to do with like banking as opposed to like day-to-day purchases, which is one thing I like about Bitcoin. But the problem with that is it takes too long, 3 or 4 times longer compared to using contactless or even debit cards to pay for simple transactions or day-to-day stuff. So when you say things like, voting, I understand that and I believe that, but I believe it, but I can't yet imagine it. What do you think to all this, the hurdles for the barriers to entry?
First of all, you're absolutely right about MySpace and all Facebook thing, and the way I see Ethereum is that it is the Facebook of the cryptocurrencies. I think it will grow, and the transaction times in Ethereum blockchain is so much faster, and people are trying to come up with new altcoins, new tokens in Ethereum blockchain to improve the transaction times for other applications, for use of trading, for use of gambling. Everyone is creating their own token for a use of an application, basically. And those tokens will power the Ethereum network. So the Ethereum network will be the base, and probably those other altcoins or tokens will be supporting the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, interesting. But what about EOS? Because I've heard every now and then there's some talk about EOS. Generally speaking, I am a bit standoffish. Because when everyone's talking about this Ethereum killer, and everyone's greedy saying, buy EOS now, buy, I'm very standoffish, because that to me, and you must have seen this in the ICO world, that to me is indications of pump and dump, that to me is indications of hype, that to me is indication of, some dubious marketing and dubious attention where, lads, this thing is coming out, everyone needs to buy it. When everyone's greedy, I want to be scared. When everyone's scared, then I want to be greedy. Because everyone is saying, buy EOS, or EOS is a new killer, it's going to be Ethereum, it's dead or whatever. I'm standoffish for that. My investors saying, that doesn't sound right. What do you think to EOS?
I think you're absolutely right about EOS. There are some other coins that actually follow that path. And some people are very, very hyped up about some ICOs. And there are also some ICOs that should be hyped up, but they're not hyped up. So there are some technologies out there which people are trying to market with the ICOs. Eventually, probably most of them will fail. And some of the successful ones will appear, and they will grow. Maybe they will skyrocket in terms of their price. So it is really hard to determine which coin is best. What I believe is everyone should look at the coin. If they believe in that coin, they should invest, because I think it is something personal, and you should also definitely look at who are the people behind it and what are they planning to do. If you cannot find anything about the people, about their roadmap, about what they're planning, about their white paper, it is really hard to come into a conclusion that ICO is good. But when we speak about EOS, I think it's a very hyped up token, and I personally didn't invest into it because, as you said, I also think it is a pump and dump scheme. So I'm staying away from those. I'm just I'm always investing in coins that I believe in and that I believe that will grow and that have potential in it. And I'm holding into those tokens. I'm not selling them. I will probably hold into those tokens until they come up with something. They come up with the application and they come up with the use for it. Because when they come up with the use for it, there will be demand for that token. And when there is demand, I think that means the prices will go up probably eventually. So that is my view to ICOs and other tokens, really. I mean, it is, you have to believe in it. You have to believe in that token to actually invest in it. It is personal.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to stand on its own 2 feet, by its own merit in the marketplace of ideas. What I think, just with regards to, when you said you got to look at the people who's behind the coin, definitely agree. Because one thing I've learnt now is once a con man, always a con man. If the person's got any dubious history, the overwhelming chances are, he's still going to be dubious today, unfortunately. Now, I can't help but think that I don't know much about tech, the white paper and all the rest. I understand the basic code, inheritance variables, ints, loops, functions, whatever, voids, but I can't write code. So what I sense, my intuition is saying that when it comes to a coin, what it needs, to really believable and something that people can use is it's got to have some basic AI functionality that essentially shops, e-commerce stores can just plug into their website and accept. And there's some centralization of an exchange and some centralization of a wallet where the customers can buy this coin and then they can use that to go into the store straight away. Like just how Facebook has got that login with Facebook kind of functionality, API thing. That's what I think some coin has. As a basic architecture, bootstrapping or something like that. Just so e-commerce, WordPress, Shopify, who else is there? WooCommerce, places like that. I can just plug it and go, like an app for those places. What do you think to that? Because I sense that kind of stuff will help cryptocurrencies in general to go much more mainstream and increase the demand for it.
I'm actually trying to understand your idea. So what you're saying is that they should come up with an AI to shop from Shopify or some other commerce website.
I don't know about AI, artificial intelligence, but an API where they can just a bit of code, like Google Analytics. You just put that Java code into the header of the page, and then suddenly you're hooked up to Google Analytics to get all the data and numbers. So if you create an exchange, you can buy Bitcoin for this currency, and under a wallet, buy the domain and store it there. Set up the API that WordPress, for example, an e-commerce website, or even custom C++ sites or other languages, can just copy this code and put it into the store, and configure it and customize it, of course, the layout and all the color palette, whatever, and put it in the checkout, then done. And a little icon on the homepage so people know we accept this coin. And I feel that maybe a few of the functionalities, something like that would help this coin and cryptocurrencies as a whole to go more mainstream. Because if e-commerce websites can accept it much easier, then you're facilitating the demand for said coin to grow. You got the supply, I don't know, the mining, but where's the demand coming from?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, at first I thought you were talking about some sort of AI, but now I understand you were trying to say an API that actually connects to other websites to make purchases. I think you're absolutely right, but the problem is to get those cryptocurrencies and turn into a real money. That's where I hit a brick wall when I try to exchange my cryptocurrencies into fiat money. I think that would be the problem for those websites as well, unless they are willing to accept the cryptocurrency itself. So there is some debate going on whether they should be accepting crypto currencies or they should stick with fiat currencies. But as you know, you cannot use cryptocurrencies to buy anything. So they will probably stick with the fiat currencies unless there is, another application which actually brings the fiat currencies and the cryptocurrencies all together.
Well, this is the problem, the philosophical debate that I had with myself a few years ago in 2014, and then it was finally resolved like 6 months ago in March of 2017, where it's like, what's the intrinsic value? You know, gold has got industrial or jewellery, but I realise now the intrinsic value of any cryptocurrency really is the network effect. The more people that use it, the more eyeballs, therefore wallets, that use it, the more valuable it is. What gives Twitter a value on the stock exchange? So the user base, the big data. Same with Facebook. Why do you think advertisers flock to Facebook? Because they know that eyeballs are there, and those eyeballs have wallets, and those wallets, those eyeballs go, and where those eyeballs go, they can buy stuff. Great, that's the value of it. You know, you pay for, there's no subscription to the service. The value of it is derived from the big data, and one way that can be sold or monetized is through advertising. Directly, create Facebook advert, for example. So that's why I think the real value of it is I hate to say this because it's success begets success. The more people that use it, and the more valuable it is. But for more people to use it, there needs to be demand. And if there's demand, it needs to be easy and accessible and very approachable, click and go, very pragmatic to apply and then just use. But then you say, also increase that demand is people got to understand through marketing, through awareness. This is what I mean in the next 4 to 7 or so years. People need to understand, the paradigm shift that cryptocurrency is with regards to tax, with regards to undermining the government, with regards to free market approach, with regards to, self-responsibility, as opposed to the establishment, the status quo already. And I think that education and awareness will take time because a lot of people in the world simply don't care about the status quo, and they're happy as it is, or they're so ignorant or blind or too frightened or whatever, anything, any particular reason, that they're happy as it is right now. And I think that's where the real inflection point comes from. And let's say that could come in the form of a crash, economic crash, when people realise that we need an alternative, or this is not working in the same old, and this is totally counterfactual. But this is my thought process of it going mainstream and being mass adopted, and much easier to adopt the payment processing, and much quicker transaction fees. Not like contactless, just click and done and paid. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. See you next time.
That can be only achieved by using well, that's the ICOs for, basically. They want to create a user-friendly application so everyone can join in, and so it will, there will be demand for that coin, or there will be demand for the Ethereum blockchain. People need to adapt those applications on the blockchain network. So people will be using it, and when people use it, corporations will also have to use it. Like when we look at Ripple is a coin that is made to make transfer money overseas very easy between banks. So that's what the Ripple is used for, and that is something that improves our current life. And I think that will be used. So, for example, that's why I invest in Ripple. I think it will be growing, and it will grow, and it will be used by other banks as well. And when the other alternative ways, when they are slower, when they are really, really slow, they will use Ripple instead. Or, for example, when we talk about voting, maybe China wants to use Ethereum blockchain for voting because they have so many people and everybody, it's a chaos out there, billions of people trying to vote the same day. I have no idea, but I'm just, coming up with ideas. So it just has to be used, and it could be through, maybe you have to use it. It could be through like voting scheme. Maybe the government wants you to use Ethereum blockchain just so you can vote. That could be one way, or it will be adopted by the users just because of the ICOs. Steemit maybe comes onto phones and everyone will start using Steemit as an application, and different applications that is, that you can buy stuff. It just needs to be improved. Everyone needs to put their contribution to it. So we could be sitting on a time bomb, but as well as we could be sitting on loads of money, as well as, a time bomb.
Yeah, I think Steemit, interesting concept. And there's another one called library.io and another one called view.ly, Viewly, which I believe, again, the value is derived from the network effects. The more people that use it, the more value it intrinsically has, because there's more eyeballs, more views, more attention, more subscribers, more followers, and they have wallets, and that's where the value is. I think Steemit has a lot of potential. I think the website needs a lot of work from a UI perspective. The principle and the concept is nice, but it's just more functionality, more streamlined. I've also heard it needs to foster more of a blogging like consumer side to it, as opposed to a blogging producer side. That's pretty nailed down, bar a few things. I'm not quite sure what it needs, but it just needs a bit more shininess to it, or a nicer searchability, or something. I'm not quite sure what, but it just lacks the polish. I don't know what they're planning. I know nothing, but it's like the concept of it is really good. A good, fascinating way of monetizing directly your content and on meritocracy. The more followers and the more worthwhile the content is, the more value you're going to derive from it, and I really like that.
Exactly. When you're talking about Steemit, you're right about polishing and all that stuff. It just needs more user-friendly look to it, so everyone can find what they look for, and everyone, will just get hooked onto it. Everyone will find something that relates to them. And you also mentioned library. I also have investment in my library wallet, because I also think library is also a very good idea. But the problem with library is the user interface sucks, and if you want to find something, you cannot find that thing. If you, like, for example, I'll give an example. I've introduced library to my producer friend. He makes videos about Age of Empires, the game, and when you type in Age of Empires on library, there is nothing related to Age of Empires, but he has videos. He has videos just titled Age of Empires to Age of Empires that, Age of Empires that. So why doesn't those come up? So if you're a user and if you're trying to find a video, you're only stuck with what you have on the homepage. So it still needs some polish, but I believe that the developers will find a solution for it, because it can be done. It's not that hard, but it is probably complicated than we think. But I'm pretty sure that they will try to improve it, and they will try to make it user-friendly in the upcoming times.
Oh yeah, of course. That's why I say it's 1998. It's just, what is this? It's just downright not very user-friendly. That's why I say it's 1998. It's on its way, but I'm confident they're well aware of it. I mean, like with library, it'd be nice if you didn't have to download and install something. Yeah, and I thought it was like Steemit, where you just upload something and create and upload, but it's like, no, it doesn't quite work that way. You have to deposit, and it's like, well, I don't like that. Okay. But that's all right. I like it, though. Similar with Viewly as well. Viewly seems to be a bit more like the YouTube version, and library, well, it seems to get the both, but I'm not too sure. Library's open now, but Viewly isn't quite ready for uploads and all the rest. But the whole point is, cool, I like it a lot, because I also look at it from a marketing perspective. The user base on there will be quite small, therefore there's not much competition. Therefore, get in there early, create your content, establish that, capture that niche, that monopoly, that slice of the market, and the awareness in Age of Empires, in marketing, in podcasts, on that platform, and capture it before it goes big and saturated and harder to gain some ground. So I think as a way of, like, the attention and there is undervalued and underappreciated, so it's like, get in there quick. That's why I like it.
Yep.
But in the meantime, though, as we wrap this up, Barış, what is it you're working on, and what's next for you?
I'm currently, on holiday, basically, because I've recently graduated, and I'll probably be on holiday until the end of this month, and I'll start looking for jobs, some software jobs. So that's my plan, is basically trying to establish a job and move on with their life, really. And also, obviously, I'm working on my own projects, such as the encryption algorithm we talked about, and other applications such as I've done a tool for storage coin, I don't know, or storage coin, whatever you want to pronounce it. I've written a software for them. That's pretty much it, really. I will keep doing what I'm doing, and establish a life, really.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, cool. Definitely. There's a lot of opportunity in this world. A lot of opportunity.
Definitely.
But what is the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
They can simply go onto my GitHub page, GitHub/KARUSB. So that will be my GitHub page to look at my software. On Steemit, they can contact me at Basmus, BAZMAS, sorry. Other than that, I have my rapper page if they want to listen to my songs, baristanyeri.reverbnation.com. So BARISTANYERI.reverbnation.com.
Cool. Well, Barış, it was great having you on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks a lot for coming on. Now, ladies and gentlemen at home, if you haven't already, and you're on YouTube, click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification that's right next to it for the latest uploads. Because I have got so many more videos, so many more podcasts to upload, so much more content on the way, helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So click on the subscribe button, follow, bell notification as well, and you'll see me again soon. How cool is that?